What's TME today? Well, today I'm reacting to true animated horror stories, and I'm gonna see if it actually be scary. Let's see. Alright, playing now, babies. True warmer horror story 1. Okay.
The story I'm about to tell is as true as the sky is blue.
I bet.
And even though it happened something like 15 years ago now, I remember every detail flawlessly.
Why is lips
I was just a high school dropout doing what it took to make ends meet. No glamour about it. Walmarts used to stay open way after dark, even in the desolate rural areas like I grew up in. I was hired in as some kind of all-around helper, doing anything and everything my bosses told me to.
Anything.
I tell you, I was busting my back. Most of the hours I spent in Walmart, I don't remember. I was working so hard that it all became a blur. Not many memorable occasions, except for one. There's one night I remember like it was yesterday. I'd been assigned to the clothing department for the second half of my shift, and the clock had just hit closing time. I'd spent all day sorting clothes, managing the fitting rooms, and running the register by myself.
By yourself.
But it was finally time to start cleaning up and counting the bills in the register. I was right in the middle of counting up all the ones when the man in question stormed up to the counter with a hoodie and a pair of jeans crumpled up in his arms. He was filthy and sweaty from the warm summer night, and his elbows and knees were all scraped up. He had a cross tattoo on his forearm with a bulging vein running across it, and he wore the most raggedy stained white tank top and shorts. He threw the clothes on the counter and demanded to buy them. "Hey mister, I need to buy these clothes, alright? I got the money." I couldn't help but roll my eyes. He made me lose track of the number I was on. "I'm sorry, sir, but I just started counting the money in the register. I can't make any more transactions here. You'll have to go up to the front. You should hurry before they start closing."
You scared me.
"I don't have time for that. I need to buy these here, now. I'm in a rush." I got a little freaked out by how suddenly his demeanor changed.
It's the breather for me.
I'd been working in that Walmart for long enough. I knew better than to aggravate a customer like him any further. So even though it was against policy, I rang him up with the about $300 in untraceable cash sitting right behind the counter. The man handed me a torn and crumpled $20 bill, leaving him about $3 short. I gave him an apprehensive look, but decided to just accept it and make up the difference later with some change out of my own pocket.
Smart man.
I would normally never do that, but honestly, I felt a little bad for the guy. He looked a lot rougher than most of the customers I saw on a daily basis, and that's saying something. As soon as I gave him back the clothes, he ripped off the tags and put the jeans and hoodie on right over the clothes he was wearing. It was nighttime, but it was still over 80 degrees outside, which made that action a little strange to me. But by then it was too late. Without a word, he ran out of the store. I tried my best to get the encounter out of my mind, but it was no use. Barely 10 minutes later, a whole army of cop cars came barreling into the parking lot. They locked down the entire Crossroads Plaza and came in questioning everybody in the store. They told everyone they were looking for a convicted killer who'd escaped from prison and was on the run. And when they gave the man's description, I kicked myself. "The fugitive is a white male, late 40s, wearing a white tank top and shorts. He has a cross tattoo on his arm. If you believe you have seen this man, please come forward." I had no choice but to give them a statement. I let them know he'd hassled me at the register and changed his clothes. They had me come with them to check the store's security cameras. I was extremely embarrassed, especially when the police saw how many breaks I gave the guy. But at least they were able to confirm that he was indeed the man they were looking for. To this day, I feel guilty about that night. I played in my head over and over again, looking for ways I could have played my cards more responsibly. I can't shake the thought that if I just stalled him for a few more minutes, or if I'd stood my ground about store policy and made him go up to the front, maybe he would have been caught.
Maybe you would have.
I'm always baffled that he didn't steal the wad of cash I left sitting right in front of his eyes. I know he must have been tempted, but he probably thought better of it. The worst part is, after all these years, that man is still on the loose. But when I get too down on myself for all that, there's one thing I can remember that makes me feel a little better about myself. A few nights later, while that guy was still all over the news, the story broke out that the fugitive, some guy by the name of Richard, had actually been stopped by the police on his very first day on the run. But he somehow convinced the cop that he was a jogger. A jogger on the hottest day of the year. I may have been reckless, but that cop who stopped him and let him walk was just plain stupid.
You live around here, buddy? What's your address?
I don't have an address.
What is? We got an escapee.
Where from?
A prison.
Prison here?
You know the bad thing about it?
What's that?
You're matching up to him.
That sucks, doesn't it?
Do jog again in the future. Carry some ID with you.
All right.
That's our quick line there.
Have a good day now.
That was based on a true story. What he do? They keep me the hell out. Wow. He said, funny thing is you're maxed up description, so why you didn't take them in? True story. Found an imaginary additional voice.
When I was still in college, I worked part-time at the local Walmart to make ends meet. Nowadays, I'm extremely grateful that my degree has kept me employed in a more respectable career, because I almost didn't make it out of my time at Walmart alive. I remember one night in particular, when the danger came to a head. It was a Friday. I was taking a few hours to catch up on my studying before going out for the night, but I got a call from my manager. Hey, Sally. We need you to come into work tonight. Miriam didn't show up again.
All right. I'll be there in an hour.
See, that's what
It
you messed up.
seemed like that there have been a lot of no-call, no-shows recently. I certainly didn't appreciate losing my night out to a late shift at work, but more than that, I didn't want to be the type of person that left their workplace short-staffed. That being said, I could already feel myself getting closer and closer to that point. The turnover was high, for good reason. The pay was minimum wage, and management was always taking advantage of the people who didn't walk out the door. People like me. When I showed up at around 9, I was glad to see that it was a slow night for a Friday. Back when I was working there, Walmart used to stay open far later than it does today. I could see why they made the decision to change their hours. I only saw about a dozen cars in the entire parking lot, and most of the customers were already checking out. Still, I was pretty sour about the whole thing. It wasn't like I was getting paid overtime for this. The next several hours dragged on uneventfully, until finally my manager made the closing announcement. Attention valued Walmart customers, the store is now closing. Please finish shopping and make your way to the checkout lanes. Thank you, and have a safe night. The way he delivered that announcement, you'd think he was a nice guy, but he was only that way to the customers, not with the employees. I checked out my last customer and was about to walk out the door for the night when he yelled at me. Hey Sally, where do you think you're going?
I'm going home? I just clocked out.
No, you're not. Miriam's shift was 8 to close, so that means you're gonna help close the store.
Alright, what do you need me to do?
Well, for starters, walk around all the aisles and make sure all the customers are on their way out.
You got it, boss.
The store was probably all but empty by the time he made his announcement. I didn't see anybody until I got to the electronics section. But of course, when it's the dead hours of the morning and you're trying to close so you can go home and get some sleep, the one person left in the store is always the one person who gives the most trouble. He was just some old fat guy staring at the wall of TVs. At first, I thought it was strange that he could be fixated on the same minute-long action movie preview that constantly plays on the TVs, but I quickly realized that somehow there was something else playing on the one he was staring into. I approached him slowly.
Excuse me, sir. The store is closed. You'll have to leave and come back to buy that tomorrow.
He didn't answer to me. He didn't even move or blink or give any indication that he was aware of my presence.
Sir? Would you mind coming back tomorrow?
Not a single muscle twitched. He was engrossed into whatever he was watching. But I was ready to go home.
Sir! The store is closed. If you stay any longer, you will be trespassing.
Just a moment,
Ooh.
Sally. I'm watching my favorite horror
Look at his
film.
teeth.
I gasped. I had no idea he knew my name. I had already clipped off my name tag when I'd clocked out a
creepy.
few
That's
minutes
creepy.
before then. Maybe he'd heard my manager yelling at me.
Get out or I'm calling the cops!
He stared me down with the smuggest of looks, then finally turned and walked away. I let out a sigh of relief. With him gone, there was nobody left in the store, so I went ahead and started shutting down the television displays. I began with the TV that the creepy old fat guy was enthralled with. I only glanced at the screen enough to realize that there was some sadistic gore movie playing on it, not something management would be okay with. I quickly reached behind the TV and ejected the disc he'd left. It was a blank disc, home burnt, with the date written on it with a Sharpie. It was dated 2 days before that night. I pocketed the disc and went back to work until I was finally allowed to go home. But when I plopped down on my couch, I couldn't relax. Something was lingering in the back of my mind. So I fished the disc out of my work pants and fed it into my DVD player. Immediately, my heart sank. There was no Hollywood reject. It was a homemade recording. And there were no actors. Only real people in mortal peril. A real-life snuff film. And the unwilling stars were my coworkers. I watched in petrified horror as the girls I thought had skipped out on work were tied up, tortured, brutalized, and eventually executed on camera. And at the end, the eyes of Miriam pleaded through the screen for help, but her mouth was taped shut. The things that man did to those girls, I just can't even talk about it anymore. I'm sorry. It makes me sick to my stomach. And even after all these years, I'm still so paranoid that I'd run into trouble on my way home from work one night and never show up again. Who was that man? And why did he even have the nerve to play this disc at the Walmart that was supplying his victims? I panicked. I quit the next day and never looked back. I also reported the disc to the police, but nothing ever came out of it. Every night I contemplate whether I was next. After all, he knew my name.
Why he let you go? Was it because somebody else was there? So those girls he's like stalking. They do some crazy messed up stuff, child. Please, guys, don't kill anyone. Please. That is the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe if you like the content. If you like different content, more content, I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. And alright.